This section lists the basic steps for a simple website audit. Now, before you start doing any SEO, it's important to investigate your website to see what sort of state it's in at the moment. So the sort of things we'll look at in this section are things like what's your page rank at the moment? Have you got broken links? How many links you've got to your websites from other websites? So it's a sort of simple basic steps that will get sorted first. Once you've done this website audit, you're in a better position to know what's wrong and what can be improved, and you need to start making changes. To really get the best from SEO, you need to go the extra mile, and once you've done the basic audit, you really need to think about investigating the other options, giving Google exactly what it likes and giving Google everything that it likes. In a lot of cases, we find that people have done sort of simple SEO, so they've kind of gone part of the way, but hopefully, as you're beginning to appreciate now, SEO, remember there's two elements to it, there's on-site and off-site SEO. To really get the benefit of good SEO, you need to give basically Google and the other search engines everything it needs, not just some of the things it needs. And if you take the trouble to do this, you will see the benefits. Broken links, this is the sort of number one problem we find in just about every website that we look at. As you've already established, Google doesn't like broken links, and also there's no reason to have broken links these days. There are loads of programs available for checking websites, and you should make sure before you do anything you check your existing website for the broken links. Now, there are many programs available to help you check for broken links. One that I use a lot, it's called XENU, strange spelling, but that's what it's called. And you just simply download this. You can use Google to go and search for it, download it, install it on your local computer. And once you fire it up, you just simply type in a web address of the website you want to check. Then you click on the OK button, and off it goes. So now the report has been produced. As you can see, it's found a broken link. So in this case, it's found the broken link. So this particular item here is missing, and this is linked to from all these other pages. So what this is telling me in this particular case is if I fix this particular link here, then all the 16 broken links will automatically be fixed. So this is not as bad as it looks. As I said, there's actually one broken link that's causing the problem, but that broken link is referenced by 16 pages. So this program obviously doesn't fix the broken links for me. It just simply shows me where the broken links are. And as I say, it's a free program. That should be the first thing you do. Download this program. It's called XENU, and basically run a report and see what happens. Now, Google Analytics, this is a free tool from Google, and it basically allows you to analyze visitors to your website and seeing how they're interacting with your website. And basically it's a fantastically good tool for basically looking at how your website's operating at the moment and how you can improve it. So here's a typical Google Analytics dashboard. And as you can see, it kind of gives me a snapshot. It shows me how my visitors are improving, going up and down from day to day. It also shows how many visits I've got, the average visit duration, unique visitors, the amount of page views over here, the amount of new visits I'm getting. And basically, if you start scrolling down and look at the information, you can start drilling down. So for instance, if you want to look at, for instance, what browsers people are using to visit this particular website, you just simply click on here, and as you can see, 37% are using Firefox, 26% are using Internet Explorer, 23% are using Google Chrome, and so on and so forth. And there's all sorts of information you can get here. So if we have a look at these other things here, if you look at the demographics, for instance, you can look at locations of your visitors by clicking on here. And as you can see in this case, the darker the green, the more visitors you're getting. So in this particular case, the United States is where most of the visitors are coming from. And then we've got places like Egypt and the UK and Australia. And as you move around here, for instance, we've got 2 from Russia. You just move the mouse over. We've got 3 from Mongolia there, and 9 from Tanzania. And again, it's a brilliant tool for basically examining where people are coming from. So in this case, if I click on United States, that will give me a breakdown state by state. So as you can see, I'm getting 179 from Maryland, and in this case, only 43 from California. And we haven't got time to go through all this. I mean, this is a course in its own, really. I could spend a couple of hours explaining how to use this program. It's absolutely brilliant. But essentially, you've got a lot of information here you can go and analyze, and basically, as I say, you can see how people are interacting with your website, which pages they're viewing, how long they view particular pages, where they go from one page to another. It's a fantastic tool. It's from Google. Install it and use it. Now, Google Webmaster Tools, again, if you're thinking of auditing your website, this is another brilliant place to start. Google Webmaster Tools, again, it's free. It's from Google. And what it does is really designed for people who run websites. And it'll give you information about how your website's faring. It might suggest improvements that you can make. When you fire up Google Webmaster Tools, the dashboard looks something like this. And basically it gives you information about your visitors. But you've also got a lot more information here. So, for instance, if I go and look at the configuration here, there's all sorts of things you can check there. You can check for the health of your site. So you can look for crawl errors. So you can see in this particular case, there are 6 pages that are not found. The simple reason for this is that I recently deleted some of the pages. And what you can do is then go in and use this tool to tell Google to actually remove those pages from the index. So it's an absolutely brilliant way of really keeping an eye on how your website is doing. And also, if you've got anything really important that's wrong, you will get some messages. As you'll see in this case, there's no new messages or recent critical issues. If there were, Google would display these here, and you can also get Google to email you if there are important problems with your website, maybe if the server's gone down or something like that. If you go and look at the traffic button here, again, you can look at the search queries. So this is really good. This is telling you the sort of phrases people use to actually find this particular website. So this particular website is all about courseware, training materials, basically. So as you can see, 110 people this month searched using courseware library, 110 searched using Excel 210 Advanced, and so on and so forth. So as I say, there's lots and lots and lots here. You can look at the sitemap information here and how many pages have been submitted. So again, in this case, this particular website contains 117 pages, and all 117 have been both submitted and indexed by Google. Because again, it's important to realize that if you've got lots and lots of pages, you need to know that Google knows about all those sorts of pages and basically has them indexed within the Google index itself. Do bear in mind, of course, this is purely for Google. There are other tools available for things like Yahoo, but this is the most widely used one because in terms of search engines, Google is the one to get right. And if Google is happy, chances are the other search engines will be happy as well. Right, Firefox and SEO tools. A lot of people, when they use Microsoft Windows, they just use the default browser, which is the Microsoft Internet Explorer. But there are many alternatives, things like Chrome, Opera, and Firefox. And one of the nice things about Firefox is that it's supposed to be slightly safer and faster than Internet Explorer. They would say that, but it does seem to be slightly better. But the other nice thing about Firefox is that you can install what are called add-ons, plugins, to extend the functionality. And one of those plugins basically can help you with your SEO auditing. So this is what Firefox looks like. Now, the nice thing is, if I go up to where it says Tools, and then click on where it says Add-ons, I can have this tab here that says Get Add-ons, and over here, I can search for add-ons. If I just simply search for SEO and do a search for that, as you'll see, there's lots and lots and lots. In fact, there's actually 117 different SEO add-ons you can use. Now, the one that I like is this one here called SEO Quake. And if I want to, I can just simply click on Install here. It's totally free. So it's now installed that. I have to restart the browser. And there you are, it's now been installed. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see you've now got this extra row of buttons up here. And for auditing your website, this is absolutely brilliant. As you saw, I installed it there. It was totally free. And what I can do now is I can fire up a website and I can look at a website to see how the SEO is looking. So if I want to, I can type in something like so I can fire up a website here. This is one of our courseware websites. Now once the website has loaded, if we look at this top row here, there's all sorts of brilliant stuff that is displayed. For instance, this particular page, it's cctglobal.com, it's a computer courseware site that we operate. As you can see, it's got a page rank of 5. Do you remember PageRank? It went from 0 to 10. 0 is bad, 10 is a theoretical maximum. So if you've got a page rank of 5, you're doing pretty well. It might not sound that good, but you'll find that most sites you look at have page ranks of sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is pretty good, 6 would be exceptional. And do remember the thing about PageRank is it's not a straight line graph, it's what's called a logarithmic graph, which goes up and up and up. So the difference between, say, a PageRank of 4 and 5 is enormous. The difference between a 5 and a 6 is enormous as well. So I'm pretty happy this one's got a PageRank of 5. And if you look at some of these other things here, you can look at things like your keyword density. There's all sorts of tools here. You can look at social media aspects. But if you click on this button here that says diagnose, this comes up. It's a little bit rough and ready, but it's as good a check as any. This is basically looking at various items within this particular website. So it's saying the URL, it's not too long, which is good. In this case, it's subjecting to the fact that my title is a little bit long. Well, there's different ways of looking at titles. Strictly speaking, it should be shorter than this, but there are, in some cases, reasons for having longer titles, which I won't really go into now. But you'll find that if you have a long title in the snippet that's displayed in the search engine results, you'd only have like so much displayed, but the rest of it can still be indexed by Google. So in some cases it is actually quite smart to have a longer title than recommended. The description there, basically it's saying, it's got a kind of yellow button there, it's basically saying that could be a little bit longer if I wanted to. The meta words, in this case it's got a cross. Well, this is something I totally disagree with, because meta words, they're just not used by Google anymore. So for that reason I don't actually have any, so I'm not worried about that one at all. If we come down here and look at the headers, you can see I've got 1 header 1, 6 header 2s, and I've got 1 header 3, and I've got 9 header 4s. Do remember that we talked about this earlier, that headings are important within your web pages, because if you format certain lines of text using headings, header 1s, 2s, 3s, etc., then that's a way of telling Google that the information in that particular line is important. And what you put in those headers is important. So in this case, the header 1 says computer courseware. Well, anyone searching for this particular product, the most important phrase they would use would be the word computer courseware. Courseware basically is the industry jargon for computer training materials, printed computer training materials. So that's exactly the word I want to get found on. And as you can see, I use the word courseware in just about all of my headers. So we did mention this before, the fact that it's important to have headers, and it's also important to get your keywords and your keyword phrases within your headers as well. So as you can see, I've given a fair amount of thought to these headers, and that's one of the reasons it gets found. Not the only reasons, of course, because as I think I've mentioned, there's probably about 200 different factors that Google will use, and the text that you have within the headers is just one of those factors. Down here it says you've got 44 images on the home page, and 13 of these are actually missing alt tags. So that's something I could improve. Ideally you should have every single image tagged with an alt tag. If we go down here, it's basically saying the ratio of text to HTML is a little bit low according to them. Again, some of these things I would quibble with, but it kind of gives you an overall snapshot. The next item here is saying frames. Well, frames is very old technology, and it used to be popular maybe 10 years ago. If you've never heard of it, don't worry about it. Chances are you're not using it. So basically I've got a tick for not using frames. In the same way, I've got a tick for not using Flash, because again, Flash is very popular. Even 5 years ago, it's quite popular. But because Flash is not actually available on things like iPads and iPhones, increasingly people are moving away from Flash. And if we go down here, we can have a look at some other bits and bobs. I've got something called a robot.txt file. I haven't actually mentioned this on the course, but this is another of the things that Google likes. And if you want, you can do your own search on it, or come on one of the more advanced courses. Again, I think I've mentioned the fact you should have an XML sitemap. An XML sitemap is basically a specially formatted file that simply lists all the pages on your websites. And if you have that, as you can see in the root directory of this particular website, then this little file here contains all the information about all the pages on the website. And when Google visits my website, this sitemap.xml file will be what it reads, so it knows whether it's got more pages to index. Down here I specified the language. Again, it's very common that the language is not specified. The doc type is just a technical thing that needs to be specified. The encoding is it should be specified as well. Down here it says I've got Google Analytics installed. Google Analytics is that free program from Google that allows you to analyze basically how you web visitors interact with your website. So it's detected that's installed. There are some other things here which a lot of people won't use, but probably will become more important in the future, so I haven't bothered with those. As you can see, we've got a tick for the feed here. And the reason that I've got a feed there is because I'm using WordPress to create this particular website. And WordPress automatically creates a feed for you, which is another reason for using WordPress. I've got this thing called favicon. Favicon is short for favorites icon, and it's basically a branding tool rather than an SEO tool. As you can see, this is ticked in this particular case because there's my little favicon. Then finally, we've got some other technical stuff which you don't need to worry too much about. But again, it's not perfect, this, but it does give you a nice sort of snapshot of how well your website is doing. You know, have you used the title and description? Have you got your headers? You know, are you missing alt tag images and things like that? And as I say, that's totally free. If you click on where it says info here, again, that'll give you masses of information. So for instance, it will tell you that in this case, the word courseware has the highest keyword density, followed by training, and computer is down here as well. So really, these are the sort of words that I really want to get found on. And as you can see, these are the words that have the highest keyword density within the actual text on my website. So with a little bit of hunting around here and sort of reading between the lines, as you can see, there's masses of information that you can glean about your website, or indeed other people's websites, because in this case I'm looking at one of my websites, my computer courseware website, but of course I could, if I want to, examine my competitors in exactly the same way. Another nice feature of SEO Quake is you can use it to very easily analyze your competitors. So if I bring up Google here and type in something like SEO training, and we'll put Perth in there. So I'm looking at SEO training Perth. If we go down here, you can see I've got the normal results listed, but directly underneath I've got information about, you know, this line here relates to this website, this one relates to this website, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, if I was examining the competition here, here's my website, and it says I've got PR of 4, and I've got various other information here. And if we go down, you can see this one here, it's got PR of 1, PR of 3, PR of 2, PR of 1. That one's not even listed. PR of 3, PR of 1 in this case, and then 2, and then not listed. So I'll say PageRank isn't the be-all and end-all, but as I say, the thing about PageRank, in Google's own words, PageRank is Google's view of the importance of a particular web page. So as you can see, here we are, I've got a 4, so I'm quite pleased with that because I've got a higher PageRank than anybody else in those search engine results. But again, it's not just PageRank, there's various other things here that you can have a look at. And again, you could investigate your competitors as well. So an absolutely brilliant tool, totally free. If you're not using Firefox, install it. You can use it as well as Internet Explorer. You don't have to replace it. But as I say, this particular add-on is not available in Internet Explorer. You have to install Firefox, then you have to install the add-on. So I think, as you can see, it's an absolutely brilliant tool, and it's one of those things you should get used to using, because, as I say, you can investigate your competitors, and you can also keep an eye on your own website. You can see how many links you've got, incoming links, outgoing links, what sort of page rank you've got, and basically just get information about your website. Now, are you using the right keywords to optimize your site? Again, this is something we see over and over again. People contact us and say, we want to get found for this particular phrase, and over again we find that this particular phrase, whatever it is hardly ever mentioned within the actual website itself, in the text, let alone within things like the headers or the title or the other important areas that we've talked about. So that's something you should look at your website before you start making any changes and think, well, what's it looking like at the moment? What sort of text am I using? How much text am I using? Because another problem we see on websites is that quite often web designers like designing pretty websites, and they tend to have lots of pictures and as few words as possible, and unfortunately that doesn't cut it. If you want to get found nicely on Google and easily in Google, you've got to use text, and within reason, the more text the better. So I know web designers don't like this, but there you go. Google likes text. Again, if you don't believe me, go to the Google Webmaster guidelines, and there it is in black and white. Google keeps banging on about things like text links and text. Google understands text, and you've got to have a fair amount of text in your website to get found nicely on the search engines. It's as simple as that. How well does your website currently show up in things like Google, Yahoo, and Bing? Make a short list of keywords, maybe half a dozen keyword phrases, and actually go and type those in and do searches in Google, Bing, and Yahoo, and see where you actually show up. Make a list of how well you show up, what position you're in, what page you're on, and basically repeat this process, once a week ideally, and see what sort of changes you're getting. So if you start doing SEO changes, then you can actually monitor the changes. Website loading speed. Again, if you checked back with Google, with the Google Webmaster guidelines, it does tell you that the loading speed of a page is important as far as Google is concerned. So again, there's lots of different tools. You can just go and search Google for something like website loading speed tool or something like that, and you'll find there's lots of tools available out there which will basically tell you what your loading speed is in comparison with the average, whatever that means. But a lot of them will also give you tips on what to improve. So for instance, if you've got some large pictures on there that haven't been properly optimized in terms of size, then a lot of these tools will say, well, get a tool to optimize the size of this picture so you can have virtually the same quality, but it's a smaller file size. And if it's a smaller file size, then the pictures will load faster. It's as simple as that. Right, counting the links to your website. I think you've gathered by now that links from other websites to your website are important. So you need to know how many links you've got and also where those links are coming from. So let's say we've got a website called www.example.com, and I want to see how many links there are from other websites to that website. All I'd do is type that in, and I'd use a special syntax. I'd type in the word link : www.example.com in this case, and when I do a search for that, it will tell me that in this case there are around 3,340 websites that link to this particular website. So again, remember the syntax. It's link : and then whatever your address is. So in this case it's link : www.example.com, and this tells me two things. It tells me how many links there are, but it also lists all of those links, so I can go and see where these links are coming from. If I click on next here, you'll see the next page of results. Now, this has all sorts of implications if you start thinking about it, because you need to see how many people, if any, are actually linking to you. You need to see where those links are coming from, because we've already established that having links from bad websites is not good. So what you can do is, in this case it's 3,000 links. You wouldn't have anything like that. So let's say you've got 20 links. You could click on each one of these, and if you've installed Firefox with SEO Quake, you could see what their page rank is, and any with the page rank is 0, then those are the sort of links you want to try and get removed. Another way of using this program is to basically examine your competitors. So in this case, I've typed in link:/www.example.com. So if I was to replace that with one of my competitors, I then get a list of all the websites that link to my competitors, and I could then go and check out, see if they're good links, and if they are good links, I could basically get the details of each and every one of these websites, approach them and ask if they would consider linking to us as well as your competitors. Chances are they'll probably ignore it or say no, but it's worth doing, because if you can get good links to your website, that's important. It's important to realize that if you are doing SEO work, and let's say you've been beavering away doing lots and lots of things, there's no change in your page rank, more than likely the reason for this is that the PageRank value as published by Google is only updated every couple of months. So what that means is that in real time, Google knows if there's a change in the PageRank, but the PageRank displayed in something like SEO Quake will only be updated, say, every 3 months. So, if you are doing lots and lots of SEO work and you don't see any change to your PageRank value, don't get disheartened. It just means that give it a couple of months, and when the next update is rolled out by Google for the public PageRank, it means that all of a sudden you'll probably jump up a notch or even 2 notches. Right, alt tags. We've talked about these. They're short. Alt is short for alternative tags, and ideally you should have every single image on your website tagged with what's called an alt tag. Remember, an alt tag is a little piece of text you can have hidden behind each picture, and it's basically your way of telling Google what that particular picture is about. It also means that used correctly, don't overdo it, but used correctly, you can start infiltrating your keywords and phrases into the alt tags. And again, it's a nice way of gently promoting your SEO. The website title, I think I've already emphasized the fact that the title is very, very important as far as SEO is concerned. So spend a lot of time thinking about your website title. We see a lot of cases where web designers have designed websites and they've used maybe a template to do it, and when we go and look at the title actually says something like title goes here, or it might just say homepage or something stupid like that. Well, bear in mind the text in the title is really, really important in terms of SEO. That's a totally missed opportunity. So if we take again the example of a plumbing company in Perth, an ideal title would be short and snappy that would include the phrase something like Perth plumber WA or something like that. But basically you try and get all your important keywords in a natural sounding phrase and put them within your title. The web description. In the same way the title is important, the web description is very important for actually getting a decent click-through rate. So your title is important in terms of SEO, whereas the description is important in terms of click-through rate. It's all very well being displayed on the home page, but if you've got a description that doesn't really attract visitors and it doesn't sound sort of the sort of thing they'd be interested in, chances are they'll click on somebody else's website, not yours. So that's really the importance of the description. It's not so much from an SEO point of view, it's from a click-through point of view. Website meta keywords. Again, I've mentioned these. They used to be important, say, 10 years ago. Certainly the last 5 years or so, Google completely ignores the meta keyword statement. So when I'm talking about meta keywords, don't mix that up with keyword phrases, 2 separate concepts. Remember, keywords are the things you want to promote your website on, whereas meta keywords is that little line, it's up in the top header, hidden behind your web pages, and it's really there for the benefit of the search engines, except that most of the search engines now ignore this statement. So by and large, you can forget all about the meta keyword statement. Right, ease of navigation and menu issues. At the end of the day, your menu system should be easy to navigate by people, but also easy to navigate by Google. And different menu systems, which you see at the top of most websites, use different technologies to make them work. So you've all seen these. You click on something and you get drop-down menus and so on and so forth. Well, you need to make sure the sort of menu system you're using is what's called Google friendly. A lot of them are, but there's many that aren't. So it's just another thing you need to worry about, because at the end of the day, if you've got your home page and you've got a menu system on there that Google doesn't understand, then Google will get as far as your home page and maybe no further, because if it can't follow the links in the menu, at that point it's stuck. That's why it's vitally important to have text links within your pages, so that even if the search engines can't follow the menu system, they can still follow the text link. So something we always recommend to people is down at the bottom of the page, certainly on the home page at the very least, you have text links to all your other important pages. A sitemap web page. Just to be confusing, there are two types of sitemaps. Remember, there's the HTML sitemap page, the page you can actually display within your website. So typically in your menu system you'd have an item called sitemap, and when people click on that they just simply go to a page that in turn lists links to all the other important pages within your website. So that's what a sitemap web page is about. And again, you should make sure you have one of these, because if for any reason Google has problems following your links, providing you've got a link from the home page, a text link from the home page to your sitemap page, then Google can easily follow that. It can then follow the text links on there to all the other pages, which means that basically Google can index your entire website as opposed to maybe just the home page or part of it. XML sitemaps. These are things you don't see as web pages. An XML sitemap file is a small file. Your viewers don't see it, but Google does. And the basic idea of an XML sitemap is that when Google comes to look at your website, the first thing it does is it looks for this special file in a format called XML. And basically what this file does, it lists all the pages on your website. So it's a nice way of saying to Google, you know, if you've got, say, 100 pages on your website, it's a nice way of saying to Google, here are details of all 100 pages. Please go and index them and include them in the search engine results. If you don't have an XML sitemap, Google says, well, okay, fair enough, you haven't got one of those, and it'll do its best. But it's one of those things, again, where if you give Google what it wants, you'll get better results. Are all your website pages actually indexed by Google? Well, there's a number of different ways of doing this. Probably the best way is if you sign up for the Google Webmaster tools, as I think I showed you earlier on, you can actually see a little graph showing you that this is the number of pages that Google knows about, and these are the number that are indexed. So again, use the tools that are available. Another way of doing this without actually signing up for anything is, as you can see, I'm in Google here, and I've just simply typed in the word site:/www.cctglobal.com in this case, and I press return, and as you can see it says there's about 575 pages here. So what this syntax is doing, it's saying list every single page that Google knows about for this particular website. So that basically shows me quite clearly that Google knows about all these pages, and if I click on the next button for a couple of times, it will show me the rest of them. So this is a nice way of seeing how many pages Google knows about on your website. So in this case, it knows about all 575. SEO-friendly file names. Remember, this whole section is about ways of auditing what you've got on your website and ways of improving it. Now, let's say you're uploading an image to your website. That image will be uploaded as a file, and quite often the file names will have silly names like 001.gif or 001.jpg or something like that. Well, do remember, whenever you can name something on your website, that's another opportunity for sneaking in your keywords. We've already established that Google doesn't really understand pictures. We've established the fact you can use alt tags to help Google along. Well, here's another example where it's really just common sense. Instead of using an obscure file name like 001.jpg or something, let's say you've got a picture of an African elephant, you can actually name the file African-elephant.jpg, where it happens to be. Kind of obvious, but again, it's one of those obvious things that most people miss on the websites that we do auditing on. So, as I say, a basic principle there is whenever you can name anything, use an SEO-friendly name for it. File size issues. If you've got lots of files, like for instance image files, you'll find there are ways of making these files smaller. So By smaller, I don't mean the size as displayed on the screen. What I'm talking about here is the file size. And again, there are lots and lots of tools available for what are called optimizing the image size. Just do some research on Google and you'll find these. And basically, if you spend a bit of time reducing the file size of your images without necessarily reducing the quality of those images, or at least as determined by your visitors, you'll find that the smaller the file size, the faster the pictures will load and the faster your website will load. And we've already established that Google likes fast loading websites. In the same way, if you've got document downloads on your website, maybe you've got documents available in Microsoft Word format or Adobe PDF format, again, sometimes these file sizes can be quite large, so that when people download, for instance, a long PDF file, it might take a while. And again, if you do a bit of searching around, you'll find there's loads of ways of actually reducing the file sizes of both Word documents and PDF files. And basically, the smaller the file size, the faster it's going to download for your viewers. Another obvious thing that a lot of people miss is, do all the major search engines know about your particular website? The one to worry about is Google, obviously, but quite often people forget about the fact there are other search engines like Bing and like Yahoo. So you should do a search in all the major search engines, just searching for something relevant to your product or service, and make sure you actually show up. The fact you might not be on the first page doesn't matter at the moment because you're just optimizing and just starting your SEO, but the point is you should make sure that these other search engines do actually know about your particular website. Does your website use Flash? Even 5 years ago, Flash was very popular. These days, a lot of web designers are moving away from Flash now for the simple reason that things like iPads and iPhones doesn't display Flash properly. So if you are using Flash on your website, consider replacing it with something else. There's lots of other alternatives, HTML5 based alternatives, but basically use anything apart from Flash, because as I say, if your potential market are searching for you on iPads or iPhones, Flash just won't display. Google Places page, have you registered for this? If not, you need to do that, and again, you need to do it in the right way. And once you've registered for Google Places, again, you need to optimize everything so you get the maximum benefit. If you remember, Google Places was when you do a search in Google, you have this little map displayed and you have this area displayed here, and the reason these particular websites are displayed in that area there is because they've applied for a Google Places page, and also they've gone to the trouble of optimizing it. Optimization of the Google Places page basically helps determine who's at the top and who's at the bottom. The good news is that a lot of people don't actually sign up for this in the first place, and those that do don't actually fill in the profiles properly, don't optimize the Google Places page properly, in which case they tend to be down here or under the more results, as opposed to being displayed prominently in the results here. So again, it's just another thing you should do your audit for. Make sure you've actually applied for this, make sure it's been set up properly. Something else that's kind of obvious, but again, I'll just repeat it just to make the point. Does your body text actually contain your keyword phrases? It seems astonishing, but this is something we get over and over again, as I've said. People come to us and they say, well, we can't be found for this particular phrase, and quite often that particular phrase doesn't actually appear anywhere in the website. So, as I've already said, simply stuffing your page with repeated keywords, that can harm you, so you don't want to overdo it. But what you do want to make sure is that all your keyword phrases are at least mentioned at least once on the important pages within your websites. Spelling and grammatical issues. Again, it's one of those things that if you have a website that's full of typos, it's going to annoy your visitors, and it's also going to annoy Google, because Google basically takes the view that these days everyone's got access to a spell checker, so at the very least run a spell checker over your website. The other thing you should do is read every single paragraph on your website and make sure it sounds natural, it's not full of grammatical errors, and it basically just reads nicely, because if it reads nicely to people, it'll read nicely to Google. If you're doing your audit, there's also other things, maybe more obscure things you need to concern yourself about, like for instance, how often does your web host server go down? You probably never noticed this, but again, if you do a search in Google, you'll find there's lots of free services out there that will basically monitor your web hosting service, maybe every 10 or 15 minutes or every hour or something, and it'll basically just check the web hosting service is actually active. Because especially with the cheaper web hosting services, quite often you'll find they, without any warning whatsoever, they go offline for 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And again, that's just going to annoy visitors, and you're going to lose potential business by that happening. So it's just something else you should think about. Just install a checker to check your server. Apart from your actual website, there's all the offsite SEO you need to worry about these days. So Facebook, have you actually optimized your Facebook page? Do you have a Facebook page for that matter? If not, get one. Sign up for it and make sure you sign up the right way. And basically you optimize the Facebook page again for your phrases. Twitter, again, if you don't have a Twitter page already, set one up and then make sure it's properly optimized, because there are lots and lots of opportunities to have things like links from Twitter back to your home page, and there's also ways of getting your home pages inserted into Twitter so that basically you get the maximum SEO benefit. YouTube, the same thing applies. Remember, with YouTube, there's lots and lots and lots of ways of optimizing YouTube. So, for instance, the individual video can be optimized, your channel can be optimized, your playlist can be optimized, and each one of these will give you an additional sort of SEO kick, if you like, so that when people search for your particular product or service within YouTube, you're much more likely to get found than your competitors. LinkedIn is yet another thing you need to consider. With LinkedIn, they do ask for masses of information, and it's one of those things, it's a bit tedious giving them the whole amount of information they ask for, but if you do that, there's much more chance that your LinkedIn page is going to be seen before other people's on a general Google search. Are your social media sites actually integrated on your website? Remember when we looked at this earlier? You can have little buttons on your website that basically allow people within your website to go and click on, say, a YouTube icon. They go and see your YouTube channel, or they click on your Facebook icon, it goes to your Facebook page, and so on. And if you remember looking at things from the other way, you can have your actual social media sites also linking back to your website. In this case, I've done a search using the phrase SEO Training Journal App, and as you can see, this result here has a little picture. And the reason this little picture is displayed is I signed up to claim my authorship of this particular website, and Google also allows you to upload a little picture of yourself. So there's a little picture of me that I uploaded to Google, and basically what that means is that that little picture will be displayed alongside the search engine results. So if you've got a whole load of results and you've got one with a picture, it's a bit like classified advertising. You know, you pay more for a picture than just having a straight lineage ad. It's the same sort of principle here. More than likely, a lot of people will focus in on the little picture and think, oh, okay, let's read this. Doesn't guarantee, obviously, they're going to click on it, but basically you get people's attention. So this is another thing you should think about. You know, see if you've got this on your website already. If you haven't, think about implementing it. Right, mobile phones and tablets. Back in the day, people used PCs to search the internet, and that was it. These days, increasingly, people are using mobile phones or tablets of one sort or another to search the internet. And the trouble is, all of these devices, they have different screen sizes, they have different screen resolutions, and this is kind of fraught with difficulty. So what I've done here is I've brought up one of our websites, our courseware website, and this is how it's going to be displayed on the PC. So there's no problem with that. Most websites are designed to work absolutely fine on a PC, on a computer. Now the trouble is, let's say somebody who's using, say, an iPad to view this, then that will have a different screen size. So if we change the screen size, let's modify this. So I'm just reorganizing this. Now let's say you had a tablet size that looks something like this. Look what happens when I make this smaller, or indeed larger. You can see what's happening. The actual pictures are resizing. This doesn't happen just by magic. You have to take steps to make this work. The good news is it's actually a lot easier than most people think. So as I say, if we just go back to where we were, that was basically on the PC. If we resize this for different screen sizes, as I say, watch this big picture at the top. Notice it resizes, it sizes down. And the same with this picture here. I've got a scrolling bit here, and if you keep your eye on that as I resize it, again they resize. Yeah. And if you look carefully, it does more than that. I've got a bit down the side here, and if I make this smaller, at a certain point, there you go, it's disappeared. It hasn't disappeared, it just dropped down underneath, so it's displayed there. So this is what's called a responsive website. It basically responds to the sort of size and shape of the screen that's used to display the website. And it gets better than this, because if you look at this menu system here, we've got this drop-down menu system sort of things that many websites have. Keep your eye on this menu system as I make this smaller. See what happened? At that point, make it smaller, it disappears, and I've just got this drop-down, so it actually converts from one type of menu to another. And if I make this smaller to sort of replicate the sort of thing you get maybe on a mobile phone, as you can see, instead of having the menu system displayed, that now converts to a drop-down, and it did that automatically. And if I scroll down here, you can see everything is nice and readable, and everything's been resized. If we come back here, when there's enough space for the menu to display properly, there it is. It now gets displayed as a normal menu system, and if we make that full screen again, that's how it'll be displayed on a PC. And as I say, there's a lot of mystique about this, but again, done right, it's very, very easy to do. If you have a website that doesn't currently resize like that, what you should do is check out your website on a mobile phone, and as part of the auditing process, and make sure it does resize. If it doesn't, you need to do something about it. So at the end of this audit, you should now have the basics in place. So this audit basically was a fairly short audit. It's some of the more obvious things that you should check for. Really, once you've fixed the basic problems, you need to take the next step and make sure you just don't simply get found on Google, you get found as well as possible on Google. So, as I say, don't think that this chapter here, or this section, was everything you need to worry about. It basically gives you some pointers, some things to think about, and obviously there's a lot more. We do, of course, run more advanced courses, which are available as seminars and DVDs, and if you look in the final section, you'll find details of these. Or failing that, you can do research yourself, because most of the information that we could give you is available there on the internet. The only trouble with doing research for the information yourself is a lot of the information is inaccurate or out of date. Certainly on YouTube, a lot of the videos there are simply people's opinions, and in a lot of cases they're just plain wrong, or failing that, they're out of date. I mean, the amount of YouTube videos I've viewed that basically bang on about the importance of keyword meta tags, well, Google ignores those, they're totally unimportant. So again, make sure you have good information, make sure the information is up to date, and then once you've got the information, make sure you implement it, because just knowing what to do doesn't mean your website is going to get found. You do actually have to do the work. And as I've said repeatedly, the best person to do the SEO is you.